Hello, everyone. This is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I, the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful, Rabbit Hole, Lore and Fray, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. And it's that time of month again. It's time for another Rekieta retardation. And boy, have I been eager to get back into this situation. A big reason why I haven't tried to milk this thing to death, talking about it more, considering how much of an audience I've been building up from it. I've been noticing like my videos being reposted to forums and being shared on like other people's streams and stuff like that. There are very good reasons for me to like keep talking about Nick Rekieta, but personally for me it's very important to like keep my integrity, and it's very important to like stick to the facts and stick to like how I feel about the situation. And when it comes to Nick Rekieta, I feel like I kind of talked about everything there is to say I wanted to say, right? I've talked about like his degenerate relationships. I've talked about like how he mishandled his YouTube channel, and I've talked about like the decline. Like I've been talking about this stuff for years now. It feels kind of like a burned out topic even though right now we're seeing this situation pick up steam, a lot of steam. So for me, it feels like I'm a lot of I keep retreating a lot of old ground, but now we are in the new we are moving on. We are taking one step forward. We are taking one step forward, a voyage to this brave new world where we get to discuss the future of Nick Rekieta, the potential of like what's going to happen next. And it does not look good. Like, I am being completely 100% honest here. I did not expect Rekieta to fall this spectacularly this quickly. I thought his decline would be like a very, very slow, very like tepid kind of thing. Someone like Darkside Phil just going on stream and doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. I kind of underestimated like Nick's ego, his trust fund kid upbringing, and his just like general incompetency. Even when it comes to like his daily everyday life, his relationships, and his professional life, or more specifically the lack thereof. Because this situation with Montograph is, I think, going to be the catalyst that really not only destroys Rekieta's YouTube channel, but completely destroys his career, right? This is going to destroy his livelihood. This is going to destroy his life. This is going to ruin him. And I don't think most people have really caught on to that yet. I've seen a lot of people like speculate on this. I'm like, talk about like where things might go and things like that. I don't think people really have picked up on the fact that things are looking grim. They really are. Like, Nick is just throwing money around left and right. He's talking all sorts of nonsense about like the opposition, about Montograph, about the lawyer, and about the judge on the case. He's like whining on stream about every little thing that happens, complaining about things that like Schneider, the opposing counsel. I don't know exactly what this lawsuit is about, but he's constantly talking about this situation, which really should be sensitive, withheld information. Like, he should be dealing with this situation in private, much like the Quartering did when he was attacked by that guy, right? Like, the Quartering was 100% in the right to like file a lawsuit against that person. He was, he came out on top, and like, he continued doing what he was doing, right? People. Ralph knows, Ethan Ralph, he doesn't openly talk about a lot of the behind the scenes issues with his legal troubles. But Nick, rather naively, I think, really seemed to think that he was going to be able to milk Montograph as content. This guy was seriously going to try and use this lawsuit against him to make money. And it was just like such a ridiculous concept. And I really do think this kind of emphasizes like a core problem with Rekieta. And one of the reasons I think he's like an atrocious lawyer is that he just assumes that everything is going to fall into place. Like, he doesn't have like any backup plans. He doesn't have any like ideas of what could go wrong. Like, he's Nick Rekieta. He's from a trust fund. He grew up surrounded by wealth. So he has no idea what it's like to fail. He doesn't even know that it's possible to lose this lawsuit. Like, all he's done since this thing has started is call it frivolous, call it a waste of time, call it like all sorts of things. But I think Montograph might actually be onto something here in the sense that, like, what Nick is doing, his unethical behavior, is the sort of thing that's ahead of the curve. What Nick is doing is indeed unethical, but the issue is that the law itself has not caught up with him yet. People like Nick, like, legal topics trail about 10 years beyond like the advance of technology. Nick himself has talked about this. This is something I've been taught in school and stuff like that. This is something that's come up in the past. But what we're seeing now is a situation with Nick, who has used his status as a lawyer to bully other people online and harass them and set his audience on them, is in this situation where his impulse is to like insult everyone who comes after him, even though that these people very well may have very real grievances against him. I don't remember exactly what Monograph's issue with Nick is. I haven't like looked at the lawsuit or anything like that, but like Nick's reaction to this lawsuit is just ridiculous. And I can't imagine that anybody like following along, especially the people like who actually have to like deal with this guy. I can't imagine anyone is like watching Nick make threats against certain groups of people, which does happen. Nick has denied this, but we all know it's happened in the past. Nick making threats against certain groups of people, saying like all this terrible stuff about like the opposition's family. I believe he like called Schneider's child retarded. Like he was born with Down syndrome. So like Nick really made fun of somebody's retarded kid. Like, really? Like, I wouldn't like that either. I don't blame Snyder at all for being upset with him. Like, it comes off as if Monograph legit seems to understand just what sets Nick off and is legit like put him into a situation where he is set to lose a ton of money no matter what. Nick, being an egotistical little shit, instead of hiring like a local lawyer who could have handled this or doing it himself, because of course he doesn't actually practice law, Nick hired Mark Randazza, I believe like a premier free speech attorney, the most famous free speech attorney in the country, from what I understand. I don't know exactly like who Randazza is. It seems like Rekieta seems to think that like idolize this guy and really look up to him as like the ideal lawyer. From what I understand, like Randazza used to be like a porn producer, and so like of course like Nick idolizes that sort of person. So like I I'm seeing this and like I'm looking at the stats and the numbers. Like Randazza is apparently charging Nick like $1,000 an hour, like billable time, which is like added up. Oh, it's like 40,000, and the case isn't even like close to resolved yet. Like we might see a situation and like Nick might actually spend more on this case just to get it dismissed than he did on like his new supercar, his new Mustang, which he can't drive half the year, which was also ridiculous. Like this is unbelievably this is ridiculous. Okay, like Nick seems to have no sense of like budget. He has no case of like he has no sense of like what he needs to do to like get certain make certain things happen. He's like making things difficult for his own people, like his own lawyers, by like making all these weird statements online uh defending things he said and like trying to justify them. Like he's putting his defense in a corner, honestly. Like it's very possible that, as ridiculous as it seems, that Monograph might actually get a favorable ruling on this subject. At the very least, we might actually get like an investigation into like what Nick is doing. Like we might actually see like some retaliation from the legal board. And I think Nick actually does deserve it. Like this guy is abusing his status as a lawyer. And like, yeah, sure, nothing he's doing is illegal yet. But again, that is because what he's doing is so far ahead of the law. So it might be a situation in which this case, this specific incident, might actually lead to more regulation of what you can talk about as a lawyer, like on the internet, like in Minnesota or whatever. Like, some actual regulation, because all Nick has been doing since this thing started is like, oh, I can say whatever I want. I can like talk about sex toys, like free speech. I can talk shit about the people suing me. Free speech. I can say whatever I want. Free speech. I can curse. Free speech. Like he's just justifying his own terrible behavior by trying to hide behind his right to express himself. And I really don't think that should be permitted. Like, he is abusing his freedoms to like harass other people. That is like the long and short of it. Like, this is something that like Kiwi Farms doesn't like to admit, but what they do, what they go after, what Nick does, what Medicare does, what Ralph does to a certain extent, you are stalking and harassing certain people based on what they believe on the internet. You are like, making content making fun of these guys. Like, you are like spending a lot of time dedicating yourself to harassing other people. And in a lot of cases, for a lot of these big profile YouTubers, like, they are making money off of it. Like, Nick is making like what? Like, over seven figures? Like, I don't know exactly what it is. I don't know exactly what his income is. Like, it's kind of confusing, but he has to be making over like 40,000, 400,000 a year, like, from what I remember. And I know it's like dipped a lot since then. And then there's the situation with like his trust fund and like what the deal with that is. Like, is he expecting his parents to die and just leave him everything? Like, is that why he's not getting a real job and why he doesn't seem concerned about like actually working ever? Like, is that what's happening? Are we in this situation? Like, it's really hard to see. Like, we don't know enough about like the personal life of the Rekietans. We don't know enough about the financial situation, and we don't know enough about the relationship drama. And there does seem to be like a lot of real animosity between like Lady Rackets and Nick right now. And I haven't seen a lot of Kayla, so I really don't like speculating at this stage when I don't know exactly what her mindset is. I don't feel like I know her very well. I've always primarily watched Nick and Drexel, so I feel like I can like criticize them very, very well. I know very well what their problems are. But Kayla, she exists, I know. But for me, it's like I'm undecided whether like she's the one like instigating all the degeneracy or she's going along with it. I'm I'm of the opinion at the moment that she's instigating it, but like a short while ago, I would have said she was just like it was Nick instigating it. Like, I I I keep going back and forth on it until like we get them both on a show to kind of talk about this like live. I don't know if we can make any reasonable conclusions, but like I do think it is very, very clear. Like, by the way things are going right now, Nick and Kayla are 100% going to get divorced. I do think it's going to happen. And I do think a major loss of income, like with this Monograph lawsuit, like with the declining YouTube numbers, like with like alienating their friends and family, like I do think this might actually cause her to leave. And I'm really interested in seeing like what the fallout from that will be. Like, is Nick going to lose out on his trust fund? Is she going to be able to take the kids? Is she going to be able to like take everything? Like, it's Nick is like so clearly messed up right now, like so high on like so many different kinds of drugs, like drinking so much, like all the time, like he's like completely burned out. Like, he looks like Ethan Ralph. I am not joking. He really does. He really has like started like slurring his words. He's less articulate than he used to be. He's contradicting himself more and more, and like he's struggling to justify his behavior more and more often. Like, oh, you can criticize me all you want. That's fine. Okay, but you keep bringing this up. Like every time these criticisms come up, every time someone like, notices something or brings something up, you address it on stream and like deny everything, but then like, oh, yeah, you can say what you want. It's like it's almost passive aggressive at this point. Like, he doesn't appreciate the fact that people are actually noticing things. Like, his audience are actually picking up on what's happening with this situation. And it's not like the base trad Christian lifestyle that he tried to sell us 5 years ago. Or was it 4 years ago? It wasn't that long ago. It's degeneracy of the highest order. Like, I honestly don't know if I would call this guy like worse than Ethan Ralph. I think with Ralph, we know a little bit more about like some of the behind the scenes stuff. People like Gator have come forward. You have like, ex co-hosts. You have like a number of people. Like with Nick, who do you have? Like, you have like Drexel, who's never going to talk. You have Kayla, who may talk after she leaves. We'll have to see about that. You have like the kids. who are too young to make any statements. I think we may see something of that nature if the kids grow up to hate him, and I would hate him if I were them. I would be very upset with him. Uh, you have like who is in Rekieta's inner circle. Like the people who have condemned Rekieta for his behavior. Ethan Ralph, he's been written off. Medicare's gone. Like who's talking about it? Kino Casino isn't doing shit. Like who's talking about this other than me? Like is Godwinson doing anything? Like I haven't. I think Godwinson has made some comments about this situation, but I don't. I haven't seen a ton of it, so I don't know how extensively he's covering this, but it does feel like a lot of people in the legal world, the legal YouTube world, LawTube, are defending Nick Rekieta in an attempt to like defend their interest, to like maintain their audience and like keep up the grift. And that is disgusting. Like more than anything, like I don't like the fact that more content creators, that content creators, people in like the anime scene, the movie scene, like the anti-woke scene, news media, conservative, like all of these people are just turning a blind eye to this. Why? Like just go out there, do a live show and say, fuck Nick Rekieta. Fuck what he's doing. I don't respect him anymore. This is unacceptable. Like that's all you need to do. And nobody is doing it because they're in this position where they only want to make money. And it's this kind of thing that it really makes me eager to see like the downfall of Nick Rekieta, because I think this is one of those things that is really gonna implode like all of LawTube. Like a lot of personalities, I think, kind of revolve around Rekieta. I think like a lot of people are like build up his brand because of him, and I expect that the fact that a lot of them are like nose guarding right now is going to like really bite them. I really do think it's gonna like lead to a lot more critical discussion about legal YouTubers, and I suppose like in this sphere, like the sector they call it. I expect that like we're never going to trust any like based lawyer ever again. It's just not going to happen. Like it's we've been burned once, like burned harder than I think anyone could be possibly burned. I suppose like the main thing to take away from this, my advice to you, don't trust any of these grifters. Like don't trust them to like actually abide by their stated values, or actually do anything about the problems they talk about, or even cover the news that they're supposed to talk about. Like when push comes to shove, all they're really after is your money.